everybody. Hope you're having a great day. So we're going to talk about how to outsmart your toxins, the different detox protocols, and blood cleanse machines, because they are not all the same. So I started a global concierge longevity, and I live in different countries, speak 6 languages, and I travel the world and search for revolutionary protocols. I've gone to all the different conferences, tried different labs, met the clinics, met the doctors, and my goal is to really just heal myself. And I started 14 years ago with misdiagnosis of pneumonia. And then later on after that, I went to the best doctor in Germany, and all of a sudden, like, my hematocrit and my hemoglobin were elevated. So I had to learn to be the CEO of my own life. And doctors are great, but they have learned traditional medicine. It's allopathic medicine where you treat the symptom versus the root cause. So I've learned by navigating my own labyrinth of this crazy world of labs, and not all labs are the same, and I'm going to walk you through that here. As you can see on the right, that's one of 2 machines in the United States. It's a CT scan, so MRIs. What should we do to be preventative in our health, and what should we be aware of, and how to test to make sure that we can be healthy? How many of you guys think that you're healthy? Can I get a raise of hands? Okay, that's pretty decent. What if I told you we're living in a toxic soup? It's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the ice cubes. And I believe that the main reason we have autoimmune cancer or all these horrible things is environmental toxins that we are just not aware of. You can be with the best doctor in Germany, and he will not necessarily test certain toxins, environmental toxins, endotoxins, mold, food mold, mycotoxins, which is kind of like the poop of the mold in your body, parasites, Lyme. So I did all these stories. I have a show called Legacy Life, and Island Natalie on Instagram. Please give me a follow. And I started interviewing doctors and experts. My why is because I personally was ill, and then I wasn't feeling great, and I found out that on a level of 1 to 7 on Mercury, I had a 23. I felt really horrible one day. I went in and I checked this stuff, and then I started digging deeper. And my mother started with dementia about 3.5 years ago, and I started thinking about, oh my gosh, the brain and the gut connection, what's going on. She lives in the Seychelles Islands, which is where I'm from, and since then I've found so many things. I found mold in the house, mold over many, many years, and of course, as one of the hormone specialists here said, for women, if your hormones are not balanced, you can potentially get dementia later on, and most of the clinical trials and studies that they've done were on men. So Dr. Mosconi is a really great lady to follow on that one. So I built this longevity concierge. I also take clients. I'm not a doctor, but I sure learned it over the last 15 years by reading books, going and meeting all the doctors, doing all the labs, and having to fix myself. Because my doctor was not able to tell me that I had a light Lyme disease, Bartonella barbesia, which is a cat scratch disease. I had a cat for 19 years. I had mold in the house in the apartment of my aunt in Munich. What else? Super high heavy metals, high arsenic, high cadmium. If you're a chocolate lover, that might be you. And cobalt. So I had to figure out these detox protocols, from chelations, what to do daily, and then blood cleanse. So we're going to dive deep also into the blood cleanse a little later. How I like to look at labs is kind of one of these. This is the total toxins test from Vibrant. I think it's really great because we can look at heavy metals, environmental toxins, house mold, and mold in the foods. So a lot of these labs, they may tell you 1 or 2, 3 things. Like I think Fountain Life, I've looked at their labs, their toxins. There's only like 3 parameters. Brian Johnson has a great lab, but he only checks 1 heavy metal, which is lead. So you've got to really be proactive, and I want you guys to check this out because you can see, like here on the left, you can see the Bartonella barbesia, mycoplasma. Then on the right, you can see some environmental toxins. So this is really how I believe we should be looking at toxins and analyzing what our baseline is. The tests that I think you must do are obviously heavy metals, endotoxins. And then you need to know if you're methylating right or your detox pathways are working. So a genetic test is kind of a good idea. There's so many genetic tests out there, Self-Decode, Nordic Labs. I really like the Intellex DNA. They have 900 SNPs. And then I had to add on some extra ones because am I the person that can really detox mold? What is that? The HL-4 genetic variant to make sure that so if you can find your imbalances, then you can counterbalance them, right? So for me, I have that, so I need to do a little more infrared sauna. I need to be proactive with like glutathione, and I need to detox a little more than the average person. A lot of us also have MTHFR, so I highly recommend the MTHFR test. How do you fix it? You just take a B complex. It's quite easy. So when you know, you can like have a strong life and help avoid any kind of issues in the future. Here's the methylation test that I did. So you can see I have the MTHFR, COMT, and then you can see also your genetics will also tell you your emotional stuff, right? So if you have a tendency to anxiety or to worry. So this is a great baseline. And then I did this microbiome test with Genova. But I personally now, after doing so many labs and tests, I like the Nordic Labs one. And in the States, I love GI Map because it actually really breaks down all the bacteria, the good and the bad, and to see if you're out of balance somewhere. And by the way, I'm also on the board of Progenobiome. Dr. Sabine Hazan, who wrote a book, Let's Talk Shit, and she talks about like the bifidobacteria. If you've been vaccinated, your bifidobacteria might have reduced. So if you can counterbalance these things, then you're good, you're strong. And very important is you have an alkaline and acidic ratio in our body. So if you're generally acidic, you're more likely to be a body where disease can grow. What does that mean? Acidity is in alcohol, high protein diet, if you don't balance it in a ratio with vegetables, milk, coffee, and obviously good alkaline water. Toxins are everywhere. They're, in the airports, they're in that Starbucks cup, there's microplastics. We have 240,000 nanoparticles of microplastics in a plastic bottle. Ladies, we've got a lot more toxins in all our makeup. I actually stopped wearing nail polish, hair dye. It's everywhere. It's in our clothes. So just be mindful. Don't stress out. What I did is I went and did it in phases. I've also cleared a lot of my cleaning products, what you wash your clothes and your bed sheets in. So it's kind of everywhere, just so that you guys are aware. So you look at me, I look pretty healthy, right? I mean, now I did get rid of all these things, but you can see that I had no inflammation, but I had a metabolic imbalance and dysbiosis in the gut. So this is your immune system. What's happening here? I did take a lot of antibiotics when I was younger, and so I think that's probably what did things to me, and also understanding if you've got intolerances, like if you're gluten intolerant, or for me, I love avocado, and then I found out avocado's not good for me. I overdid it. So when you do that, you have silent inflammation. And inflammation is inflammaging. The only reason we really aging is a disease. So if you can be sure that you have great balance with your alkaline acidic base and you're avoiding the foods that are not good for you and avoid these silent inflammations, you're good to go and we can age well. So there are some patient case studies that I've looked at, and like I said, I believe that every autoimmune, Parkinson's, cancer, it's all dysregulation of the mitochondria over long periods of time. Yes, it can also be the hormones, but it's all toxins. So what I do is I go in and I try to find, I really believe mold is a big one. We don't think that we're affected, but in Europe, in cold weather or hot weather, you can have quite a bit of mold, and you can also have them in the HVAC systems of the hotel rooms that you're in. Lyme is a big one that's silent, that you can't also really pre-detect easily. I work with a great clinic, parasite clinic right here. What he does is he takes poop and blood and sends it to 3 labs to come back with some information. Then you could also have Giardia. Giardia is often related to having dogs. You deworm your animals once a year. What are you doing for yourself once a year? You've got to be clearing those toxins, those parasites once a year, especially if you're an animal lover. Like I said, I had Bartonella barbesia I had a cat for 19 years, and I did my test 4 years after my cat passed away, and I was like, huh? But it was still in there. These critters are still in there, and you are the best host. So what we want to make sure is to get them out of there. And sometimes it's also really easy with tinctures. So I've done that. I did 3 parasite cleanse this summer. I did ivermectin. I did the Touchstone Essentials with zeolite, and then now I'm on a Barbesia, Bartonella, like bitters. It's quite easy. You just do it 3 times a day. As long as you're not traveling too much, it's really easy to do. So I really love the Quicksilver Scientific Detox push-catch protocol. What is your daily detox that you're taking? Definitely make sure you're eating organic because you can have pesticides, glyphosate. You can also use code Island Natalie here, you guys. So they have a nanotechnology that's liposomal. I love Chris Shade. He's got a PhD in heavy metals. This is what I use, and you can keep that. But if you're highly inflamed, we need to go deeper, and we need to do a blood cleanse. So we've got environmental toxins, heavy metals, endotoxins, mold. It's also in the sewage, in the plumbing of your house. It's actually quite common. Old buildings. If you think you're drinking water, like I know that in Germany or here, the water is generally quite healthy, but what is the plumbing, and where's heavy metals getting into that plumbing that you're drinking? Then we've got glyphosate. I had glyphosate eating a lot of bad food in the United States or in corn chips. Parasites, candida, which causes immune system dysregulation, and Epstein-Barr virus. You can check your urine through the mycotoxins. There's different ways to look and find, or aspergillus antibodies. There's different types of mold. Yeah. So the future of detox, I 100% think, is an oil change for your body. So how do we do that? A lot of people are scared of it. Don't be. I've done 2 plasmapheresis, which is a cleansing of your plasma. They go in through your arm, and it's kind of like a dialysis mechanism, which has been around since 1945. So it's really not that new, and not, it's been researched and checked since Switzerland. They started it, 1945. So I'm going to walk you through. I believe that there's different ones. This is a hemoperfusion. It's a full blood cleanse. So you've got the plasma only, and then you've got a full blood cleanse. And there are different filters for the plasma apheresis. There's also the enopheresis, which is a lighter version of a plasmapheresis that's out of Switzerland. And then it's all about this filter. You've got also the EBU, the EBO2, and now the TPE and the YPE. So the TPE is a therapeutic plasma exchange, where they will exchange your own albumin for either human-derived albumin or synthetic albumin. I'm personally very against this. I think you'd have to be super, super toxic. I think our body can naturally heal. I had so many co-infections and chronic illness with all my stuff that I found. And I did, in the end, what worked for me was 1 plasma apheresis, 2 hemoperfusions, full blood cleanse, and the third one I did was hemoperfusion with hyperthermia. So what that did is it induces heat shock proteins. So you know how you get sick? Temperature goes up, that opens your cell membrane, and therefore what's deeper in the tissues, because not all our toxins are hiding out in the blood, can open up and come out. It took about 2 to 3 months for me to normal out and equalize. My arsenic was gone. It also gets rid of barbiturates, my cadmium, my cobalt, all gone. My mercury went down to a level 8, so I'm still clearing that, but a significant, huge change. And yeah, so some people now, so I love this machine. If you guys want any connections, let me know afterwards or DM me on Island Natalie. I'm also working on partnership clinics in Mexico, where they're working a lot on cancer patients. And then I always say, before you get stem cells, empty the trash. So clean out the trash, get an oil change for your body, then put the stem cells in. Because if you just, plaster over it with medication or whatever, you need to clear the crap first. TPE, like I said, Brian Johnson, it's the wild, wild west. A lot of people are promoting a lot of stuff, so be smart. Don't really trust your doctor, because I didn't, and it's the reason that I uncovered all my issues and I've been able to resolve them. And I know Brian Johnson has posted the TPE, even Gary Brecka, and they are friends. I respect them completely, but I think it is a little misleading because if you have healthy albumin, you should keep your own albumin, and we can naturally heal. And I get clients and patients coming to me and telling me that they've had, autoimmune reactions, and so it can also be dangerous. Imagine you're taking somebody else's human-derived albumin and putting it inside of you. You may be fine, but there are some, horrible stories like anaphylactic shock. So be careful with a lot of the stuff they're promoting. I know there's another big one coming out that I'm in the know of, which is a heparin filter. And I know that they're, for example, not replenishing you afterwards. So just like you take antibiotics, the good stuff will go out during the blood cleanse, just as much as the bad stuff. So you have to make sure that you get like a Myers cocktail, an IV replenish, and stay on top of it to make sure you're taking your mineral supplements and looking for nutrient deficiencies. Check yourself 2 to 3 weeks later. I know that they're, for example, with that Seraph heparin machine promoting 2, which may be good for someone who has cancer or some serious health issues, but you've got to be careful and make sure you're also not taking too much out and kind of give space in between. So when I did my blood cleanse, I put 2 to 3 months space in between each one. What you can also add on with these machines is oxygenation of the blood. So if you've got, long COVID, vaccine injury, cancer, oxygenating the blood is not a bad idea. But what about the people who kind of have a healthy microbiome? So oxygenating the blood can also change the flora. So I don't believe that if you're generally healthy and you're just getting rid of toxins that you should over-oxygenate your blood. I don't think that's a safe idea. And Dr. Sabine Hazan out of LA has also talked about this. So here I am getting a plasma blood cleanse, and I like to say that each filter removes certain molecular size of toxins. So mercury toxin has a certain molecular size. Mold has a much smaller molecular size. So each filter can get something. The hemoperfusion that I promote is a resin filter. And the Seraph is like a heparin filter, and then there's different apheresis or plasma filters that can get certain things out. So if you've got a lot of stuff, it's good to maybe do one of each, but for mold, it doesn't 100% get rid of it, and mycotoxins, so you do need that daily detox, and then certain parasites, you still have to do certain bitters. I'm hoping that this video will turn on. Sir? Can we hit play, please? So as you can see, I'm here. It's totally easy. I'm having a coffee. I can work from my iPhone. I was working earlier. We checked on it. Oh, there we go. So it's quite easy, and it's basically just an oil change for your body, and nothing to be scared of. It is the future. It's already happening everywhere, but which blood cleanse are you going to trust for your unique precision blueprint? And we are all unique. So we need to make sure that we don't overdo it, don't over-supplement. I don't believe in over-supplementing, but be preventative in your choices. So this was okay, but it didn't really move the needle for me. So I went deeper with the hemoperfusion and did my daily detox with the advanced push catch. And when I then did the one with the hypothermia, it was a game changer. So what that did is I did 39 degrees fever. They can kind of put you out if you want to, and it was a big game changer. You wake up, you're totally energetic. You can, it goes through the femoral vein. It doesn't really hurt, but they have stuff to get rid of the pain if you're sensitive. And yeah, that was a game changer for me. Also, if anybody has Lyme disease, they can actually go up to 41.6 in temperature. You have a cardiotechniker, you have a team that is really, really watching you, but there's nothing to really help you get rid of Lyme disease unless you go to this super high number. And it also gets rid of circulating tumor cells, by the way. So I work with a clinic that I trust in Germany. It's obviously a very, serious procedure, and it is working. I've met people who were bedridden and couldn't move, and then they did this, and within 3 months they were walking again, and they were healed from Lyme. So yeah, I believe the full body blood cleanse is the future. I think this is the safest mechanism. This company has actually been around in ER rooms and for 25 years. And as you can see that little filter there, that was my filter on the top left. That was D-dimer that they pulled out because I have coagulation of the blood. What I found out back then with my pneumonia when I got really sick is that I kept having more red blood cells and I had elevated leukocytes. So what I found is my genetic variant JAK2, JAK2, and that means that I tend to have coagulation of the blood, so I have to take a blood thinner, everything I can do once I know to stay in balance, and this removes like the D-dimer, and like I said, it gets rid of heavy metals, mold, arsenic, barbiturates, and I think it's a game changer for a full, healthy life. Another part of health is not just the labs and the diagnostics, it's also your epigenetics and your lifestyle. And obviously, our nervous system is the motherboard. So I've gone into a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's modalities of learning meditation, breathwork, the lady before us that talked about it, game changer. I really underestimated breathwork, and it just regulates your nervous system because we all have stories and trauma and reasons. And ladies, we breathe shallow and we breathe here versus breathing here. Free diving is also something I took up just to get better at my breathing and regulating my nervous system. So, true luxury is a calm nervous system, and we have molecules of emotion. So those molecules of emotion are, I'm also an intuitive, so I'm doing a course on root cause through medical intuition. What does that mean? Your liver is anger, your spleen is worry, your lung is grief and sadness. So my father, my beautiful beloved dad, who passed away May a year ago, my best friend, had urothelial primary cancer, wandered and metastasized to the lung and the liver, and he had been going to his doctor every 4 months. His liver enzymes were perfect. They did the wrong tests. I promote Prenuvo in full body MRIs because your regular labs are not going to tell you what's going on under the hood of your car, under your skin. You're not going to know what's going on if there's a tumor growing. So I highly recommend get an MRI or do an ultrasound. My doctor in Germany does that. And it was the most painful thing for me to learn, to have to let him go and realize that his great doctors did their best, but they just missed it. And so you really need to be proactive about your life. You need to be the CEO of your life. And make sure that you do these other toxin labs. And with my father, I can say that urothelial was his energy center. He had moved to Costa Rica, started in a new home. He was still holding anger in his liver from the overthrow of the government in the Seychelles, which is why we moved to Germany and the States, and grief in the lung for the sadness that he was carrying leaving his home country, and then the divorce with my mother 20 years earlier. So is there an emotional side? 100%. When I went to Dr. Joe Dispenza, I realized that I was always holding, being a strong lady in the career world and sometimes experiencing some unpleasant things and always having to be strong for the family. So ladies, breath work is really important, and releasing those emotions because they are energetic and they do affect us and they will affect your life. So there's a really great book, actually, Molecules of Emotion. And a lot of what we focus on, we are electromagnetic beings. If you think positive and you see the goodness will come back to you. And believe me, we all have stories. I mean, I'm half German, so there's a story of war. Seychelles, there's a story of, we were a British Commonwealth, and then they overthrew the government. I remember when they came to pick up my father in the police car, and I had to work on that emotional story, go back to my inner child and make peace with that and give her comfort. All these things affect us. So making sure that your mindset, like I work on my fears since years, and on the other side of fear is courage and growth. I believe in growth, so I believe that, you guys should get involved in some kind of, I know that my friend is here doing breath work. There's a lot of great experiential stuff. I highly recommend go do it, even if you're scared, even you're like, what's that? That's how I used to think, and it works now. It's definitely changed stuff for me. Here's my Instagram, Island Natalie. I also have Legacy Life. You're welcome to connect with me. I do one-on-one patient consulting. I look at your labs. I love taking problem cases because I always know that, like, if you've got cancer, doing chemo is not going to solve the root cause of the problem. We need to go deeper, and we need to find out what happened to trigger that. So we need to fix that. And sometimes you're actually killing the patient with chemo. I also have a lot of great interviews on there. I have a podcast on Instagram, so you'll see my friends Brian Johnson, Dan Buettner, Dave Asprey, and I go to a lot of the conferences globally, so I'm always showing like the new stuff that's around, and I highly, highly recommend that you guys stay proactive in this journey. I gotta say, it's really great that you're already here. You're one step ahead of the curve, and there's a lot of great booths and tests and stuff that you can do. Yeah, I'm actually done faster. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Good. There was a lot. Enophoresis?
Mike?
Yes. Yes, I do. And why would you want to get it?
Oh.
Okay. Have you done your heavy metals check? Okay. So, we need to follow the right plan of action. We need to also make sure that your kidney and your liver can sustain any kind of detox. So what I would say is the first step is to do that total toxins test. I'm happy to connect with you. And that's where I would find the baseline, because yes, your hormones can get dysregulated from heavy metals. A lot of things can, autoimmune. But I would start there versus just jumping into a blood cleanse. I think it's great of you to be proactive, but I would start there, and maybe there might be lighter things if your heavy metals are not that bad. And hormones can also be stress-related and mindset. There's also a great test at Nordic Labs on hormones, even the Grow Baby, that one's in particular, and then we can see what is really causing that. So I'm happy to help you after this.
Any more questions?
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.